deal with some of the smartest people. I mean, really, really smart, the rocket scientists. I get to say that I work with rocket scientists.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Life in Accounting. We are a podcast production of WhereAccountants.go.com. I'm Mark Goldman, the CPA, and your host for this podcast. As you know, if you've been listening for a while now, we are a show that's all about highlighting the different career paths that you can have starting from a background in accounting. Today's guest is an excellent guest for fulfilling that purpose. Anoop Mehta joined us for this episode, and his story in a nutshell is one involving starting as an intern and eventually becoming president of the same organization. And before you start to think that, it must be a small company or something like that, yes, it may have started that way, but today they have over 1,000 employees. It's really a great story of getting in on the proverbial ground floor and then working hard to make a difference. Anoop also shares that there were some additional skill sets that he had to develop outside of just his accounting education. He's been involved in several community boards, but one that definitely deserves to be highlighted is the Maryland Association of CPAs. Anoop got started with MACPA as a committee member and eventually served as chair for their state association. It was through those interactions, coupled with some other similar outside of work activities, that he credits with helping him build up his soft skills in the areas of leadership and communication. He really does have a good story. Not everyone joins an organization as an intern and ends up being the president as they grow to over 1,000 employees. It's really a great story of sticking with an opportunity and giving it your all. I think you're really going to enjoy this one. If you do find value in this episode, please check us out online. You can find us at www.whereaccountantsgo.com. We have all kinds of accounting career-focused materials there for you. One material that you may want to check out if you're looking to grow your own career is our first book, 49 Tips for a Successful Accounting Career. You can find it on Amazon, of course. However, you can also find it for immediate delivery at our website at www.whereaccountantsgo.com. It's a collection of the best advice from the first 100 or so podcast guests that we had on this very podcast. I'm sure you'll like it. Please check it out. Well, with that, let's go ahead and get started. Here's Anoop Mehta. Well, hello, Anoop. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Mark. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Well, for the audience, we have Anoop Mehta on the show today, and this is going to be a wonderful show to record for a few reasons. First, Anoop was referred to us by one of our former guests, which I always appreciate. I love referrals. And secondly, Anoop literally started his career as an intern, and yes, I said intern, at his company, Science Systems and Applications Incorporated. And now, many years later, he is the president and CEO. And plus, during that time, they've grown quite a bit. So I know this is going to be a wonderful story for our audience. Anoop, I really do appreciate you making the time for this today, and I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of your story, so to speak. But before we get into your role now, I want to make sure we cover the early years. How did you decide initially to pursue accounting as a possible career in the first place?
Well, Mark, again, thank you for having me. I love to tell the story because, in a way, it's unique. I got interested in accounting actually at the high school level. I first took a class in accounting. It was in 11th grade, and actually that course was generally reserved for seniors only, which is, 12th graders. And there was a teacher that I came across, and I had taken a couple of classes with him, other business classes with him, and he really encouraged me to sign up for accounting. And his name was Mr. Miller. I will never forget it. And after taking that class in 11th grade, I really enjoyed it so much that I wanted to pursue it further. And I asked Mr. Miller, what can I do? And since this was the only course that was offered, and like I said, it was only offered to seniors, and I had just taken it in 11th grade, he said, well, don't worry about it, Anoop. Tell you what, just sign up for this class again, and we'll do independent study. I said, wow, that's neat. So I can pursue and take, advanced accounting in high school. So he gave me a book over the summer and a workbook, and I took that and worked over the summer, and, I was really enjoying myself. And then in my senior year, my 12th grade, I attended classes, but we kind of did our own thing, and actually there were like 5 or 6 of us in that independent study. And, I just fell in love, and I knew that was kind of what I wanted to do. There was also a movie that we watched. Believe it or not, there was a movie about accountants. So we watched that in 11th grade, and it was all about accountants and what they do. And I remember watching and saying how cool it was to help businesses and what a respected profession it is. And what really made me, this is what I want to do is my dad's an accountant too. He was a chartered accountant from India. He practiced in Africa before he came to U.S. So he's been in the accounting profession for over 6 decades before he retired, and practiced accounting in 3 different continents. So his demeanor, the way he carried himself, I think he had a huge influence on my decision to go into accounting. I mean, I remember people always treated him with respect and always were eager to hear what he had to say. And I thought, well, this is what I want to do. So that's kind of what made me. My dad, Mr. Miller in high school, those were like the 2 key figures that really inspired me to go into accounting.
Wow. There's so much I want to ask about here. The movie about accountants, if someone hears that now, they're thinking Ben Affleck, and The Accountant.
Exactly, yeah.
But that wasn't it, because this is a few years back. Do you remember what that was by chance?
I don't remember the name, but the only thing I do remember the last scene, and hopefully this doesn't come out the wrong way, but the last scene was this guy, the accountant, driving off in a red convertible Mercedes. I said, that's what I wanted to get. I'm still waiting for that, by the way. But it just made an impression, It was just a wonderful, they talked about, not just audit, but taxes and helping businesses make good decisions. So all of those things kind of covered, for 11th grade or whatever you could make out of it or take out of it. And I wish I knew remembered the name of it, but it's kind of I think it was like a 20-minute, 25-minute story about accountants.
Okay. Interesting. And the other thought I had is that every state CPA society wants 100 Mr. Millers. In their area to be promoting the accounting profession. That's crazy for him to effectively, volunteer to make up the curriculum for an advanced class. And wow, that was really a gift. And, that's why I love the teaching profession so much. I mean, I admire the teachers because they have a tremendous ability to influence. And I don't think I would have gone into accounting per se, even though I know my dad was an accountant. But, there's a combination of things. And he really inspired me. And, part of it is also confidence, being able to say, hey, I really think you should do this, encourage you to do this. And especially since that course was only available for seniors, he allowed me to sign up for it and take the class in 11th grade. So I'm ever thankful to Mr. Miller. Wow. Yeah, that is special. So something else that really intrigued me about your story, what popped in my mind is the term ground floor opportunity. When you mentioned that you started as an intern, and I think you said the company was substantially smaller at the time, and now, of course, you're president. How did you get the internship? Is this a typical internship that we think of these days where, they interview some people on campus and you get the job? And how did all that get started?
Well, so, after high school, I attended University of Maryland here in College Park. So I've been a local, I grew up locally and attended local college. And since I knew I was going to be an accounting major, I had already declared it right as freshman. During the first couple of years of my college, I worked a couple of part-time jobs here and there. And then in 1980, like I said, I was in the school already a couple of years. My dad told me about the client he had. And he said, the client was, he was basically operating out of his basement. And my dad used to do his taxes and the company's tax returns and light accounting accounting services for him, and said, hey, he is just kind of venturing out from his basement into a small office that he's just gotten, and maybe he needs somebody to just oversee that. And I said, sure. I really never thought that I would be doing that immediately, but, at some point, I think my dad said he wanted me to get out of this, the restaurant business, because I was used to in McDonald's, and I worked at, I think it was High's Dairy Stores at that time. It was now 7-Eleven. But I think they got tired of me coming home like 12 midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. So my dad suggested I at least talk to him, and the gentleman was Dr. Anoop Mehta, who's the founder of the company. So I remember it was my last final for the semester. It was the spring semester, and my dad said, well, why don't you, as soon as your last exam's over, why don't you go meet him? I said, Dad, my last final at 9 o'clock in the night on a Friday night, you really want me to go to his office at that time? He said, yeah, he's going to be working. I said, oh, okay. So anyway, I went to the office. He had just opened it up like a month and a half, 2 months ago before that. And I interviewed with him, and I still remember it was, at 9:30 in the night, I think, by the time I got to his office. And Dr. Baheti, and, he asked me a couple of questions, what I was going to be doing, what I wanted to do. And I said, well, I'm going to pursue my degree in accounting. And back then, I always thought, if you got a job with the Big 8, back then, the Big 8 firm, right? That was where I wanted to be, and that's what I wanted to pursue. So he asked me a couple of questions, and he asked me if I could type. I said, sure, I know how to type. And again, this is my typing teacher in high school. I have to appreciate that too. Thank her for that. So I typed a couple of things and handed it to him, and he goes, okay, can you start Monday? I said, yeah, I guess so. And, so he actually, Dr. Baheti used to spend most of his time at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. That's where we have most of our work. And he used to spend most of his time there, so the office was pretty much empty. And he would come late in the afternoon, late evenings, and just do some of the administrative stuff. But then I was there alone. So I used to answer phones, do typing, and basically office chores, order supplies, or whatever I needed. And at that time, he had one more employee. So really, there was 2 employees when I started. So after that, just, when I graduated, I think it was, we had close to, I think, 20 employees by the time I graduated. So from 2 to 20, we had grown in a couple of years. And he asked if I wanted to stay on. And at that time, things had gotten, and we're in the government contracting, so lots of regulations to follow, lots of reporting. And it was getting to be difficult for my dad to do the day-to-day stuff that he used to do. So he asked me, well, why don't you, if you're not doing anything, you don't have any plans, just stick with the company. And Omen asked me to stay. I said, sure, I'll do that. And I just loved the people that I was working with. And I said, well, yeah, I don't have anything. And the work we did was supporting NASA, and how cool that is, to work on projects or actually be part of people that are working on projects that, satellites get flown out there through spacecrafts and whatnot. So I thought it was pretty cool. So I stuck around, and slowly the company grew. Now remember, at that time, when I became full-time, we had about 20 people, but I started to oversee the accounting, the human resources, contracts, administration, and I've had no formal training in any of those areas. I just had my accounting degree, and that was it. So you start to learn pretty quickly. I read a lot, and I started to develop great relationships with the people, our clients, like Goddard, NASA, Goddard Space Flight Center, and I met a couple of people there. They actually kind of took me under their wings, and they taught me a lot about government contracts. And, so there were quite a few people along the way that helped me. And as the company got bigger, my title changed from finance manager to VP of Finance and Administration. And throughout that, my responsibilities continued to increase. Then in 2000, that's where we had the biggest jump. Around that time, we were around 250 employees. And nearly overnight, we doubled the size of the company from 250 to close to 500 employees because we had just won a large contract from NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. And so at that time, my title changed to CFO, which is the function that I held till 2015 when I became president of the company. So, like I said, throughout the process, a lot of credit goes to a lot of people for my success and progression. And a lot of people invested their time in developing me, and this is why I'm so much into now education, helping people, because I got that from quite a few people. And some of those same people are still with the company, actually, so I get to see them still every day. I learned a lot from our customers, and the thing that I'm most proud of is just the environment of the people around all these years. I deal with some of the smartest people. I mean, really, really smart. The rocket scientists. I get to say that I work with rocket scientists, but they're the nicest people to be around. And I think that's the environment that I kind of grew up in, and that helped me to get to where I am today. So I'm very much appreciative of all the people that have helped out around me throughout those years. Today we have roughly over 1,000 employees now.
Wow. So what is a typical day or week like for you as president? I take it you're not writing journal entries, probably. Somebody that does that. Hopefully.
Actually, no. My typical day, lots of meetings, visiting customers, making connections, and partnering, creating partnerships for new opportunities, and then managing day-to-day issues that come up. When you're having over 1,000 employees, there are bound to be things that just come up on a day-to-day. There are a few things that I'm very heavily involved in because I enjoy those parts. But I will tell you, the day goes by pretty fast, but there are still times that I will get on the whiteboard and draw up a T account to explain a concept to our accounting manager or a CFO. Then I kind of get a kick out of it. I don't let them see that I enjoyed that part, but there are times I'll do that, and I'll say, oh, no, not another T account, right? I said, well, this is how I know how I can explain something. So, yeah, time to time I still do that, but most of the day is just managing day-to-day operations, looking out for new opportunities, new business, and the last 5 years, we've grown about, I think, 40-45%. So we're on quite
beautiful. Good. So I'm curious, you started as the company's second employee outside of the founder, and you stayed with that same organization. I could see how with some people, they may get comfortable and decide, I don't know if I need to become a CPA, or I'm not sure about certification. And obviously I don't feel that way, otherwise I wouldn't be asking the question. But what was the decision process like for you? Because you are a CPA, so that's something you chose. Did that come earlier in your career, late in your career? What was that decision point like for you?
So I am a CPA. I'm very, very proud of it. I'm also hold the designation of CGMA. So after graduation, I did sit for the exam, and unfortunately I didn't pass. And I tried a couple of times, and I didn't pass, and I said, well, then I started to second guess myself. Do I really need this? Because I had a good job and a lot of responsibilities, and I was enjoying the work that I was doing. So I kind of gave up. I didn't pursue it. Then at the age of 30, I just turned 30, and you have these self-reflections. What have you done? Even though, like I said, I was pretty happy with what I was doing, I was enjoying my work, I was enjoying the people, and that self-reflection, that have I done everything in my life, or have I done things in my life that I could be proud of? And I said, well, I really, really wanted to do the CPA, pursue take the exam again, and get that designation. So at 30, I said, no, I'm going to do this, and I know it's going to require me to do this. Now, I've been removed from the school for some time, so that was a little bit difficult. I was married. I had my first child. So that is not when you want to do this, because the commitment that is required to pass that exam. Now, I was still under the old system, right? And you have those 2.5 days you sit and you go to these places and you sit there for 2.5 days and you take the exam. So I enrolled in a review class, and I had a discussion with the owners that, hey, I really need to do this, and this is the time commitment that I'm going to require in order for me to pass it. And they were really, really encouraging, and they said, sure, whatever it takes. I know it's important. So in 1991, I did the review class and sat for the exam, and I passed all the parts. And I would tell you, talk about a relief. It was just an amazing day for me that day when I opened up that envelope, And if back then you got those envelopes, right? And I'm sure you recall those, I don't know. But it was a special day. And I think after that, I could see the difference. I could see the change in the people that I interacted with when I got the CPA designation. Not that, I didn't have credibility in the work that I was doing and all that, but I think it just changed their mindset a little bit, having those 3 little letters behind your name. And, those people that are thinking whether I should do this or not, I wish that I had done it a lot earlier. It would have been a little bit easier, not having, gone through, not married and having kids and all that, and then sitting for it. It's just the commitment. It's hard to find that time to be able to do that at that time. So I would certainly encourage, as soon as you get out of school, take the exam and get it over, get past that. And I will tell you, whether people say it or not, the image, the perception changes immediately when you say you're a CPA. And I think that opened up so many doors for me that are today very important to me. So absolutely pursue the CPA designation. It will open up, whether you want to stay in the accounting profession or like me, who is in private industry, it just adds a tremendous amount of credibility to whatever you're going to do.
Sort of along the same lines, I'm curious, as the company grew, I was going to say, and as you progressed in the company and that sort of went hand in hand, there are things that you come across that you realize, I didn't learn this in college, What have you found that you've had to learn along the way in the, progression up to president, where you are now? In what ways have you had to sort of supplement your education, so to speak?
There are lots of things, Mark. There are lots of things that I guess the colleges don't prepare you for. I think, the technical skills, obviously you have to have those in order to continue to pursue the exam and all that. But skills like communication skills, leadership skills, and some of the other soft skills, or we call them success skills, you learn through getting yourself outside your comfort zone, meaning getting outside the confines of your office. I think what helped my career, that I got involved in activities a little bit in college, but after college, in community, I was on community boards. I was involved heavily in community activities. That allowed me to have confidence in talking to people, and I think that was very important. You're kind of to yourself, I think. In college, I didn't go to a lot of parties or anything like that. But once I got out and started to interact with people, that's where I started to learn about people, and what's important to enhance your career is connections, making networking connections, and meeting people that you wouldn't normally meet, because you can learn a lot. So I started doing a lot of the community activities, getting in on some community boards, and then I interacted with people that are in leadership positions in other organizations. So you start to develop that. So I think that's my advice to people would be start that early. Don't wait till you get out of college or you're already you're pursuing a career or early career. I think those are things that you need to start developing in college and earlier if at all possible. And I think part of it is also we're a science and engineering company. I don't have those skill sets that most of my counterparts and that are president and CEOs of other companies that I deal with. They all have science or engineering technical background. So I had to learn a little bit about what we do. I say this a bit because there's no way I can be at the level that some of these folks have. I mean, they're master's, PhD in physics and meteorology, some really, really smart people. But understanding what they do a little bit and how it applies, I think I'm able to talk to others about what we do. There's no way I can fully grasp the technical knowledge, but having some understanding helps certainly to connect with our employees, our customers, and the partners. And there's still, at some point, I still see that as a challenge. I mean, acceptance, since I don't have that technical background, being accepted by peers is still a challenge. But, you show them because you're involved in so many different things, and you bring some of those, what you've learned outside the organization back into your organization to make the organization better. So I think I'm getting there. After 39 years, I'm still getting there. But I think, getting outside your comfort zone is critical. That's my advice. And I think for people in early career, start to connect with people early and as broad as you can, because you just never know where your interests will go.
At what point did you start getting involved with the Maryland Association of CPAs? Because I know we talked about that a little bit in our pre-show conversation. Were you involved before becoming a CPA, or did that sort of come later career, or how did that work?
Actually, that was right after I passed my exam. There was a committee that the MACPA had, the Government Contractor Committee, and I remember I attended one of the conferences, and after the conference was over, I really enjoyed it, and I went up to the chair of the committee, and his name is Harry, and I asked Harry, this was really good. I really enjoyed the conference. How can I get involved? He said, he told me about the next committee meeting they were having and where, and he said, just come. And I said, that easy. And sure enough, I went to the committee meeting, and actually after 2 years, I chaired the committee because I really enjoyed what the mission was and what we were trying to do. And it exposed me to a lot more people in the government contracting arena. And that also helped if I had a question, I could just pick up a phone call and talk to somebody and say, hey, I've got this issue. And some of these folks have been in the field for 20, 30 years. So it was great to be able to get insight from them. So I kind of got involved, I think it was in 91, 92, with the committee, from a committee standpoint. And then, as I said, I chaired the committee for a couple of years. I'm still actively involved in the committee. And then years later, MACPA, the executive director reached out to me and said, hey, I know you've been involved in this committee. We have a board opening, and would you be interested in joining the board? And they said, well, look, the individual who is on the board had to leave because of they got another appointment. It would be a conflict, and the remaining term is 6 months. You see how you like it. If you like it, great. If not, then you tried it. So I got on the board, and I really enjoyed it, and then I got nominated to be on the board again for a couple of more years. And then after that, they reached out to me again and said, hey, would you be interested in becoming Secretary-Treasurer for the organization? Now, at that time, I did not know that was kind of the progression to the chair position. But I found out pretty quickly. It's a nice hook that they have. It's great. I tell you, that was one of the best things I ever did. And so I met a lot of people through the MACPA. So I joined the board, then I became part of the executive team, secretary treasurer, and then I think in 2012-13 I became chair of the MACPA. Now through that, you get connected with people at the AICPA level as well, and I learned a lot about leadership and gaining confidence in my ability. While I've been in leadership positions for a long time, but I still had a lot to learn, and I think this gave me an opportunity to do that. And I'll tell you that the MACPA is like no other society, state society. I not that I'm biased, but I can tell you it's been an amazing. And I followed. I think you may know Kimberly Ellison Taylor. So she was the first chair from MACPA, and she was actually the chair of MACPA, and I was kind of in her footsteps. So that's another person that I admire quite a bit.
Wow.
So that's how I kind of got into the MACPA. So yeah, I still. In fact, I was just at the board meeting that they had last week, because they still continue to invite me to the board meetings. And I'm actually now at the AICPA. I'm on the AICPA board, and I'm the board liaison to the Maryland Association of CPAs. So it all connected. And
wow.
It was great. So going back to, you had asked me earlier about the CPA, I don't think I would have had these opportunities open up had I not gone and got my CPA. Because it's the training, I guess, the development that you get through these organizations like the MACPA, AICPA. I mean, it's not you're learning new tax rules or how to do taxes or new auditing skills or anything like that. But it's all about professional development, and that's what I think I've gotten most out of these organizations.
Beautiful. Well, we end every show with the same three questions, but there's one more thing I want to get to, and we're starting to run out of time. There's so much more I could ask you about. You've given me a lot of ideas. So you were referred by Byron Patrick, and Byron was the first person on our show, at least, that has CPA tattooed on his forearm. That was the first for us.
Oh, yeah. Pretty neat tattoo.
And you mentioned to me in our pre-show discussion that you had owned a martial arts school. So you're the first person that was in the martial arts business, the first martial arts CPA that we've had on the show. So I just have to ask about that a little bit. Is that something you still do, or how did you end up owning a martial arts studio of all things?
Well, that is something I still do.
Okay.
So about the time I started this job in 1980, I had taken a class at University of Maryland, Taekwondo class, martial art. I guess the generic term is karate, and I really enjoyed it. And I was taking it with a friend of mine from high school, and we both took it together, and we really enjoyed it. And he said, Anoop, I found a school nearby. Would you be interested in coming? And I said, well, one semester is fine, but even though I liked it, I wasn't sure whether I was going to do anything with that. But anyway, I kind of went in and saw the school, and I said, well, I'll do it for a month and see. And I did, and I really enjoyed it. So I stuck with it. Then in about 5 years after I started, I got my black belt. And I tell this was, I said that there are a few things in my life that has really helped my professional development. MACPA is right there. This is one of them, martial arts. I tell you, talk about developing confidence and being able to do things that you normally would not have done, And shortly after I became black belt, they offered me a partnership. So I became a partner, and slowly after that, some of my partners started to move away to other states. So, the remaining partners bought out the others till I bought out the last partner who moved to Florida. So then I started to operate the school myself, managing it. We had about 20, 25 students, and when you're running a school and operating as a business, you basically did everything. So you had to make sure, heating, air conditioning, if something broke down, you had to take care of it. And it was getting to be very, very difficult with, of course, my responsibilities to SSAI and some of the other boards that I was on. So I decided to actually convert the school more into a club. So I still go teach from time to time. I don't run it as a business anymore, but we still have a handful of students. I go there to give exams to the students. I'm also into judging tournaments, so I do that a lot. But really, that martial arts was gave me a tremendous confidence. I venture outside my comfort zone. I tried things that I would never have done before. In fact, when I meet friends and family and all that, I always encourage them to put their kids through martial arts at the early age. It just changes their whole perspective on things. So yeah, I still go. I'm now 7th degree black belt, so I've been doing this for about 39, 40 years now. So it's been a long time.
Wow. Okay, I just had to ask. Like I said, that was a first. I've never had that come up on the show, so thank you. That's a good story. Well, I do end every show with the same 3 questions, so I probably should get to those. The first one's usually the easiest for the guest. What's been your proudest moment from a career perspective?
I think a couple of them. There's not one single, but certainly become president of the company that I started back in 1980. I think becoming chair of the MACP was pretty special, and when I get my black belt in 1985 was pretty special. So I think they're all contributed to my professional development. I think those are very special for me.
Yeah, it's hard to rank any of those first. They're all special for sure. Well, second question, tell us about a lesson you learned the hard way. And the more you can tell us about the situation, the better, of course, because that's how we learn.
I've been thinking about that. I think the one that comes to mind is in 2006, we lost a major contract. Remember I told you in 2000 we won this big contract, which doubled the size of the company. Well, in 2006 we lost that contract and reduced the company size by about 40%. And I still remember that day as if it happened yesterday, because I'd never want to go through that again. The day I found out, it was a Friday. I left home, left work early, went home, and just kind of crawled into bed for the entire weekend. We knew we were doing good work, but during competitions on contracts, you never know how things will work out. I think that things that you go through your mind, could you have done better? What things can you have done? And lying in bed for 2 days, entire weekend, you start to wonder and kind of second guess yourself on, could you have done something differently, or what did you do wrong, And, I'll come to the lesson, actually, what I learned, but what really got me out of the bed, and it was just an amazing story. I was watching news, and there was a story about this autistic young man who was an equipment manager for a high school basketball team. I don't know whether you come across that story or not. But anyway, the coach decided to have him put on the uniform and be part of the team for their last game of the season. And then with about 2 minutes left in the game, I think the coach decided to play him. Never expected to be playing, but he put him in. And I remember in the story, in about 2 minutes or 3 minutes left in the game, he hit 6 or 7 3-pointers. And I watched that video, and that inspired me to get out of bed. The lesson, got to continue to be perseverance. Have positive attitudes and give everyone an opportunity to succeed. And I think some of the things that we're doing as an organization is that continue to, and that's the lesson I learned, that things will happen, but you just got to get out and persevere and then be very positive. And as long as you continue to give everybody an opportunity to succeed, they will shine and they will help you grow as well. So that was a tough lesson, because I tell you, you're coming in one day, your company size is 500. Next day, you're down to around 300. It was not a good feeling.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. I have a third question that we end every podcast with, but I almost feel like we should cut it off there. That's such a good lesson. I can't imagine. Wow.
If that tape is on YouTube, I think you should watch it. And I think I would encourage your audience to, I'm sure they can find it on YouTube, but it's an amazing story.
I need to look that one up for sure. Well, the third question that we end every show with, and then we'll go ahead and close it down after this. What is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
I don't think there's one piece of advice. There's a couple, and I think they're all very important. the few that I cherish most is one, my dad. He always taught me to live within your means. Don't overextend your finances. My mom, who's a teacher by profession, always taught me about the importance of education. And another one that I still remember, my dad, and I still live it, it's don't have any debts. In fact, in our company's 42-year history, the company has never borrowed a single penny from the bank. So that's very proud of that. So those are some of the advice that I've received from my parents, and it's not one, but it's a couple of them that are very, very important.
Wonderful. It's amazing how often when we get to this point in the show that the best advice always comes from the parents.
Yes, absolutely.
Some things don't change. Well, thank you very much. That really is perfect to end this on. Well, for our audience, this has been Life in Accounting. We are a podcast production of WhereAccountants.go.com. If you haven't yet visited our website, please do so. We have a lot of accounting career content there for you. We have other episodes that may interest you. We have blog entries. We have books, just a whole lot of other information to help you further your own career. And once again, that website is www.whereaccountantsgo.com. On that note, Anoop, do you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom you want to leave with the listening audience?
Well, Mark, I really enjoyed the podcast. I hope your audience enjoys it too, but please pursue that CPA. It will open up so many doors for you. So that's my last piece of advice.
Beautiful. Well, you've been a great guest. And to the audience, thank you again for joining us for another episode. We appreciate you. We will see everyone next week. There's more to come.